Hello, fellow duelists. This is Shadow of the Moon, and today I'm going to be doing a different kind of deck profile for you. I'm going to be taking you back to April of 2010, where 5Ds is the series that's going on right now and is dominating. I loved 5Ds so much. It was such a great show. If you haven't yet seen 5Ds by now, I would highly recommend you go and watch the series. It probably, in my opinion, is the best series on Yu-Gi-Oh! And with that being said, I'm going to be showing you a deck profile, Edison format of my Blackwing deck. Now, you're probably wondering, what is Edison format? Well, I'm going to send you a link in the description below, which is going to explain to you in more detail exactly what Edison format is. But for the most part, Edison format took place around April 24th and 25th of 2010 in New Jersey, and it was during a Shonen Jump Edison Championship, which is the reason why it gets the name from it. The championship was won by Jeff Jones, who piloted a Quick Draw Synchron deck, Dandelion Quick Draw Synchron, and the reason that this format is very well loved and known is because of so many different types of strategies that you could use in this deck. A lot of decks at the time were running around and were doing so well. You had the Quick Draw Synchron, you had Dandelion Synchron, Zombie Synchro, you had Blackwings. Ironically, this was one of the times that Blackwings, and probably one of the very few times that Blackwings were actually dominant. And you had other different types of format. You had Machina, Machine, Gadget. It was just a great time to be a Yu-Gi-Oh player, because this was the first time that you were actually utilizing your extra deck a lot more than just using fusion monsters. You were actually using the synchro monsters. So I'm going to show you my deck profile on that. But before we get started, also I want to give a shout out to Cardmaster Brian. I have been watching his channel for a number of months now, probably for actually over a year. This guy has an amazing channel. He does product review, or he does deck profiles on GOAT format. He recently started doing profiles and deck profiles on Edison, which is what kind of inspired me to be able to actually want to do this for you and show you. Also, he does dead TCGs and CCGs that are no longer around. He is an avid card player and just a really great guy overall. So if you haven't had a chance yet, please go check out his channel. I'm going to send you a link down in the description below for you to click on. And he almost has 1,000 subscribers. I feel like he deserves to get 1,000 or more because of how much he's been doing. And I just wanted to give a shout out to him because like I said, he's a great guy. He's got a lot of great content. And if you like my stuff, you are definitely going to like his if you're into the retro formats and a lot of the TCGs and stuff. Alright, so without any further ado, without me rambling, let's go ahead and get started. So first off, in the format, you're going to be running, because this takes place before the Shining Darkness, so the set that came out with most of the Blackwings were Ancient Prophecy and was the Raging Battle. Soraka of the Dawn is a great card to open up, because if your opponent goes first, you draw him, you have him. If you control no monster and your opponent controls a monster, you can normal summon this card without tributing, which means he's a 2,000 beat stick. Also, he has a great effect that if you have other Blackwings on the field, you can transfer all their attack power to one Blackwing, but that one Blackwing is going to be the only able to attack this turn. Now, what makes him viable is being able to have the field swarm with all 5 fields lit up and everything ready to go, and then if they have a face-down monster, special summoning and having Bore the Spear, and then transferring all the attack power to Bore the Spear, making him like a 5,000-6,000 piercer, and then go into your opponent and do massive damage. Then we've got 3 copies of Blackwing Shira the Blue Flame. Shira allows you to special summon Blackwings if it destroys a monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, but it does negate their effects. In my opinion, that's completely fine, because you can search for Vayu, you can search for Gale, you can search for pretty much most Blackwings in this deck that will allow you to go into a synchro play during the same turn. Then 3 copies of still probably one of the best cards, and you see me run 3 in my actual Blackwing deck. Board of the Spear. This is also what I was telling you about with the Soraka of the Dawn combo. Board of the Spear has piercing damage, and it is not a once per turn, so if it goes back to the hand, or if you have another one in your hand, you have 2. As long as you control a Blackwing monster other than him, you can special summon him from your hand, and he has piercing damage, which can just go over your opponent, especially if they have like a stall card like Marshmallow, or if they've got a stall card, any kind of stall card or anything that has a low defense, it's definitely game over for them. Then you've got 2 Colute the Moonshadows. This essentially is your hand trap for Blackwings, because you can drop this, gains an additional 1,400 attack on your Blackwing monster when they attack with it. So very, very useful and viable in this format. because of being able to get that extra 1400 attack. So if they attack you, you can drop this and easily overkill their monsters. It's like a mini Honest, because it's set at 1400, but it's basically an Honest. Then Gale, one copy of Gale the Whirlwind. The reason why Gale is only at 1 is in the format and in the ban list and limited list. Black Whirlwind was limited to 2, and Gale was limited to 1, because this was around the time that Blackwings were very, very, very powerful. So Konami had to find some way to kind of break it as much as possible, but being able to actually still play with Blackwings. You can still play it with the Gale at 1. It does not affect the deck at all. It just limits being able to obviously special summon multiple Gales, but still, Gale's a great card because it can cut your opponent's monster attack and defense in half, and has the same effect as Bore the Spear. Okay, and then we run 2 copies of Blackwing Blizzard of the Far North. This is great to be able to normal summon, because if you normal summon this, you can special summon a level 4 lower Blackwing monster from your graveyard. That can immediately go into your synchro play of going into a level 5 or 6 monster, which is very, very important in this format, because since synchros are the main part of this deck, you're going to want to be able to go into them as quick as possible. And then lastly, for the Blackwings, we've got 1 copy of Vayu. Most people I've seen in their deck profiles have 2 copies. I'm only using the 1 because I find 1 is a little bit more consistent, and it doesn't clog your hand. He cannot be synchro summoned on the field. The idea is to be able to have him and like Blackwing Armor Master in the graveyard, both of them. You remove from play him and Armor Master to be able to go into your copy of Silverwind and Ascendant, which is a 2800 beat stick. And then we've got 2 copies of Doom Caliber Knight. This is a great negate effect card because it's a 1900 attack, and during either player's turn, when a monster effect is activated, you contribute it to negate it and destroy the monster. So it's a great way to be able to stop them from going into too many crazy combos. And then obviously, you're going to be running your Cyber Dragon. Cyber Dragon, you just need 1 of in this format. If your opponent controls a monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. It's a 2100, and this works really well with Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon. Also, this is such a great way to be able to go into another special summon because it is a 2100 monster. And then lastly for it, you've got your Dark Arm Dragon. So Dark Arm Dragon is very essential and pivotal to this deck, because other than Cyber Dragon, Dark Arm Dragon, you have to have at least 3 dark monsters in your graveyard to be able to special summon it, and he just pops cards like crazy. This guy was unstoppable back then because of that ability to be able to just destroy cards, and every single time you have Dark Monster in the graveyard, you could banish it to destroy a card on the field. It wasn't just a spell trap, it wasn't just a monster, it was a card. So, yeah. Alright, so that's going to be it for the monsters. Let's move on to the spells. So first off, 2 copies of Black Whirlwind. Obviously, this was semi-limited to 2, so you don't get as much searching speed, but it's still just as good. If you control a Blackwing monster, you normal summon it. You can add from your deck to your hand a Blackwing monster that has less attack than the one that you normal summoned. 1 of Lore of Darkness, because Allure was limited to 1 at the time. This allows you to draw 2 cards, and then banish a dark monster, so it gives you great draw power. Then 2 copies of Book of Moon. Now, I never thought I'd be saying this, because in a lot of my profiles, obviously, you don't use this. But Book of Moon was very, very valuable and important in this format because you wanted to be able to stop your opponent from activating their monster effects. So the idea was to be able to have it set, play Book of Moon if they were to bring out a monster that had like a Stardust Dragon or something, and then you could flip it face down and has 2000 defense. You can easily get over that. Just like with Goyo Guardian. Goyo Guardian had 2000 defense, and you would flip Goyo face down, or you would flip Black Rose, and it would actually stop its effect. And then for this for the destruction spells and traps, for the spell and trap destruction, we're going to be playing 1 Heavy Storm, 1 Giant Trunade, and we're going to be playing 1 MST. The format was hit hard because MST was only at 1, and Heavy Storm and Giant Trunade were both limited, so pretty much this was your only way to get back row other than like Breaker or other than Dust Tornado. I'm just running these 3 because these are the most important. Heavy Storm will destroy all spell and trap cards, Giant Trunade will put everything back in the hand, and then MST would be able to destroy a spell and trap on the field. Alright, then we've got 1 copy of Foolish Burial. This is going to be the last spell. Honestly, I don't know why people don't put this in a Blackwing deck, Edison deck, because if you're trying to get into Vayu, the Emblem of Honor, you want this in the graveyard as quick as possible because you want to be able to go into your synchro plays. Or if you want to be able to put in a level 4 monster to be able to go into your Blizzard of the Far North, normal summon it, special summon the monster that you just put into the graveyard, and then synchro to be able to go into a level 6 Mainly, though, it would great for using value because you put this in the graveyard. This can help you get Silverwind and Ascendant a lot faster, and this also can help you set up for a lot of your plays. I don't know why people don't play that more often. I'm serious. This is a great underlooked card for Blackwings. And then that's it going to be for the spells. We're going to move on to the traps now. Traps were very, very important in this format. There were a lot of traps that people played because a lot of decks were very trap heavy because you needed ways to be able to stop your opponent from attacking, synchro summoning, being able to get monsters on the board to have field presence. So first, we're going to have 3 copies of Icarus Attack. This was a great card for Blackwings or any Winged Beast deck because you could tribute a Winged Beast to destroy 2 cards on the field. So this would definitely give you more field presence to be able to wipe out what they had on the field. 1 Delta Crow Anti-Reverse. Great, great, great card. Delta Crow, if they have all set cards, all set spell and trap cards, if you have at least 3 Blackwing monsters on the field, you could activate this from your hand. Also, if you control a Blackwing monster, you activate it, it will destroy all their face-down spell and traps. Very, very, very important in this format because you don't want them to get their bottomlesses, you don't want them to get their trap dust shoots, torrentials, solemn judgments, mirror forces, whatever, because you want to make sure that their field is clear. Then you've got 2 copies of Bottomless Trapple. This was to stop their special summoning, their synchro monsters. 1 Trap Dust Shoot. This was limited to 1. This would attack a card from their hand and send it back to the deck if they had 4 more cards in their hand. Torrential Tribute. Torrential Tribute would board wipe. Call of the Haunted, which was one of the only ways to be able to actually bring back monsters on the field. Call of the Haunted, which special summon a monster from your graveyard. Solemn Judgment, because Solemn Judgment was still very, very good in this format. You pay half your life, and you're going to negate a spell trap or summon of a monster. Then I've got 1 copy of Royal Oppression. Most people run 2 in their deck. I only find 1 is more valuable and actually useful, and just in my opinion. Royal Oppression is kind of a weird card because it can work for you and your opponent, but if you activate it at the exact specific time and the right time, it can completely screw up your opponent's plays. So what it does is that if you pay 800 life points, you can negate a special summoning or negate a affect monster's effect. Now, what makes that important and also kind of a double-edged sword is that your opponent can also use it too. If you special summon a monster or activate an effect, if you've got this on the field, they can pay the 800 life points to negate it. But if you play this at the exact time that you need to, like say if they summon a Black Rose Dragon, you play this will allow you to negate it and actually potentially destroy it or destroy Stardust Dragon or Red Dragon Archfiend or anything. So this was a very important card, but you have to be careful on how you play it. And then lastly for the traps, we've got your Mirror Force because this will do a complete board wipe as soon as they attack, destroy all attacking monsters. Alright, so that's it for the main deck. Let's move on to the extra deck. So first, 1 copy of Silverwind and Ascendant, and 2 copies of Armor Master. Silverwind mainly in here was very, very hard to get out because you needed 3 materials to be able to use it. You needed 1 tuner and 2 or more non-tuner monsters. So it was a little bit more difficult to bring out. But if you have Value the Emma of Honor and you've got Armor Master, this is a great way to be able to go into it. Then you've got 2 copies of Blackwing Armor Master. This essentially was still one of the best cards in the deck because it could not be destroyed by battle and it places wedge counters on your opponent's monster when they attack it. Then you've got 2 copies of the Armed Wing. Armed Wing was a piercer just like Bora, except he would become 2800 if he attacked a defense position monster, and was all in all a very, very good card. Very easy to get out because it was a level 6. Then we have Colossal Fighter, one of the most annoying cards in this format. Colossal Fighter made it to where if it was destroyed by battle, you could special summon it back from the graveyard, and having 2800 attack was definitely nothing to laugh at, and very, very hard to just get over because of that attack power. Then you had Thought Ruler Archfiend, which was a great beater, 2700 attack. Then you had Dark End Dragon. Dark End Dragon actually is actually one of my favorite because Dark End Dragon could destroy monsters on the field, but increasing his attack by 500. So you could lower his attack, keep lowering it, and then you could destroy their monsters on the field. So it was kind of very, very annoying for them because you made it to where you could keep having that open board. And then obviously you're going to have your Stardust Dragon. This is going to negate anything that tries to destroy it by banishing it or removing it from play. Still a really, really good, useful card in the format. Then you had Black Rose Dragon, which was a field wipe. Everybody used this in their deck back then. This was a great way to be able just to wipe the field and be able to go in for an attack if you had other monsters ready. Then Goyo Guardian. Now, this was before it was errata, so Goyo Guardian only required 2 monsters, 1 tuner and 1 non-tuner, was not an Earth. So this was a very viable, very powerful card, being able to go into this, because this could, if it destroyed a monster, it would steal the monster, and then it would place it on your side of the field. And it being 2800 attack made it very hard to get over. Then for the level 5 synchros, we've got Magical Android, you've got Bryonic, Dragon of the Ice Barrier, and then you've got Ally of Justice, Catastropher. Or Catastor. So these were all very important because they were all level 5s. This would help you go into a lot of your plays. Bryonic obviously is the most useful because of the bounce effect. And then lastly, you had the copy of Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon. With Cyber Dragon in your hand, this was great because you did not have to use polymerization, and if your opponent had a machine type monster, you could go into this using one of theirs as a material. So it being that, and then it would gain attack and defense equal to the number of fusion materials used for a special summon times 1,000. So it could become a 2,000 beat stick, and it would take your opponent's monster and yours. So, all right, so that's going to be it for this profile. I'm so glad that you stuck around and enjoyed it. Edison is a great format because of how cheap it is. Very, very cheap. It's like literally next to Critter format. It's literally, you can build a deck for about $20 to $30 very easily, because most of the stuff have been reprinted as commons. And it's just a great format to be able to play with your friends and be able to play with other people just casually and stuff in between tournaments, because of just how simplistic it is. It's a lot more trap heavy, and it does require a lot more strategy, obviously, than like Critter format or like Go format and stuff, when special summoning from the extra deck wasn't really that important. This requires you to utilize your extra deck as much as possible. And all in all, this was just a great, I love doing these deck profiles and these old retro formats and everything. Really excited about the new formats that Konami is going to be coming out with. So stay tuned. Maybe I'll make a couple videos on that if I see something that piques my interest. And once again, I wanted just to give it a shout out to Cardmaster Brian. Make sure you go check out his channel. He's got a lot of great stuff available for you to watch. And he's just a great YouTuber, Yugi-tuber even. And with that, I'll see you guys next time. Later.